Need to know what happened at the Capitol today? We've got a report for that. And how do you measure a legislative year? In roll calls, in meetings, in close votes, in cups of coffee? No matter how you add it up, tonight's guests have devoted many seasons to the Georgia General Assembly. We'll reflect on the legislative life. Lawmakers starts right now. Welcome to Lawmakers. I'm Bill Nigut. It's day 33 of the 2016 legislative session. We're getting closer and closer to sine die. Tonight, though, instead of looking forward, we're going to pause and take a look back as we talk to a senator who's announced he is not running for re-election this year. He's decided it's time to retire from the legislature. But before we get to that, let's recap what's happened today at the Gold Dome. Shelby Lin joins us with tonight's Capitol Report. Shelby?
Hi, Bill. Things are still moving pretty slowly down here at the Capitol, and that's considering there's so few days left in the session. The Senate passed just two pieces of legislation today. One would help the Georgia film industry. The other would help protect senior citizens from scams.
What was the first scary movie you ever saw? It was probably Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. This bill is a fix to help our movie industry here in the state. Said we could film lions and tigers, but you know, in Georgia, we can't film Georgia bears unless we pass this legislation.
Senator Frank Ginn introduced HB 840, a bill that would create a film production wildlife permit. It would allow movie crews to use and film animals on sets in Georgia. The measure would also regulate how animals are treated. But opponents of the bill are still worried.
Do you have any idea from looking at other states that have this kind of permit? How often it'll be used or how much it might be used in Georgia?
Well, you know, unfortunately right now, anytime that the native wildlife to Georgia is used in a film, they have to shoot that, they have to go to another state, shoot that scene, and then bring that back into a movie they're filming here in Georgia.
When it was time to vote, HB 840 passed by a margin of 42 to 11. It's now on its way to the governor's desk for his signature. Also in the Senate today, HB 697, a bill that would protect consumers from being automatically charged for a product or a service after they sign up for an introductory trial period. Senator Janice Vanis introduced the bill.
This has to do with the free trial periods that are frequently given, especially to our seniors. It's been a concern that's been ongoing for many years, and this prescribes after the free trial period that someone would have to sign or affirmatively say they want to continue the subscription.
The bill, as amended, was passed on a vote of 50 to 0. It now goes back to the House for a review of the new language. Speaking of the House, there's been few Senate bills considered since crossover day, more than a week ago, and that's angered John Meadows, the chairman of the House Rules Committee.
There are no senators on the wall. Y'all know what we've got on the agenda for today, right? Nothing. And again, there's no senators on the wall. Does that tell you what kind of agenda you're going to have Thursday?
Meadows' committee is in charge of scheduling Senate bills on the House calendar for a vote. He told Senate Rules Chairman Jeff Mullis the Senate needs to get to work.
But it would have seemed like to me that y'all could have done a little something the first 30 days to get a bill out so that they could have been on the wall so we wouldn't stand around here twiddling our thumbs. You know, I don't know what y'all have done over there, but the cold hard facts are you didn't produce anything. You've left all this stuff kind of hanging over there, and you think that you're going to attach it to those House bills. Well, the cold hard facts, that ain't going to happen. You attach them, they're dead. We don't care. I don't want to pass any more bills. Fact is, Mr. Mullis, you probably ought to get back over there and maybe have a rules meeting or something so that we can get something started with this group.
Today's comments by Meadows may have been in jest, but just last week, the Senate tabled two House bills because the House wasn't taking up their bills fast enough. Stay tuned. House supporters of a bill before a Senate committee believe it will ultimately help bring down the number of drunk driving deaths in Georgia. Georgia was number 2 in the nation last year for fatal crash increases, according to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. MAD officials believe HB 205 will help bring down the numbers. Representative Tom Rice is the bill's sponsor. He says when people are stopped for drunk driving in Georgia, they either receive a restricted license for a first-time offense or lose their license altogether if they're repeat offenders. But Rice says the current system for dealing with drunk drivers is broken, and that 50 to 75% of those who lose their license will drive anyway, and drive drunk again too. HB 205 calls for the use of ignition interlock systems for drunk driving offenses.
They can drive legally wherever they want to go and whenever they want, but they have to have that interlock device on. It's an option that they can take. It's not an easy option. 4 months if you blow, if you take the sobriety test. If you don't take the sobriety test, a refusal, you get 12 months on an interlock device.
An interlock system won't allow the car to start if alcohol is detected on a driver's breath.
It's a good option for people to, hopefully, more people to drive legally.
Prosecutors, though, Bill, have expressed concerns about HB 205. That's because the ignition interlock system only monitors alcohol and not other drugs. The bill is now in a Senate committee and will continue monitoring its progress. That's it from the Capitol. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks very much, Shelby. Joining me tonight, Jim Galloway, who's been covering the Georgia legislature for roughly 30 years. Boy, he doesn't look old enough to have done that. For the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and Senator Tommie Williams. He is finally announcing his retirement after, 18 years in the Georgia General Assembly. Tommie, I guess we can, or Senator, I apologize. I guess we could call this your exit interview.
It is.
Congratulations. You've been there since 1998, right?
I've had a good term here. It's been really good. I've moved up through the leadership rank. I was majority leader and pro tem. Never had opposition for those positions, and was involved in most of the key legislation over the last 15 years. So it's been a good ride.
We should say that your colleague, Senator Bill Jackson, also a veteran who's been around for a long time, he announced his retirement the same day you did. He was initially going to be with us tonight. He's feeling under the weather. He's probably feeling a little heartache.
Bill's 83, so, he's been here a long time.
Jim Galloway, before we talk a little bit about Senator Williams' career, we got some news. The Senate could be close to voting on the campus carry bill, which came over from the House and passed out of the Judiciary Committee yesterday.
Right. And there was some buzz going on that links the campus carry bill to the religious liberty legislation. As you know, last week, Governor Nathan Deal said he didn't want anything that's going to discriminate. He's going to be very particular about the contents of the religious liberty bill. And that kind of prompted some talk over the weekend about maybe the Senate would return the favor and given the governor a very much stronger campus carry bill. But they ended up passing it, no changes, or very few changes, if I'm not mistaken.
No changes.
And it'll be headed for the floor pretty quick here.
Senator, what do you think about that measure? Is that measure going to get through the Senate pretty easily?
I do have some concerns. I really hadn't decided what I'm going to do on the bill yet, but, as somebody who's been here a while, every year having another gun bill, at some point in time you just want to go, can we just have a session without a gun bill? It often pits Republicans' property values with Second Amendment values. I mean, when you're telling a property owner that they can or can't do something because of your Second Amendment perspective, that's difficult.
You mean, for instance, that I, as a restaurant owner, can't say to you, please, I don't want you to bring your gun into my restaurant.
Right. Now, we're all talking about folks that have a carrying license. These are some of the more safe people to be toting guns. If you got a carrying license, usually you're pretty thoughtful. But on the other hand, just legislators that introduce red meat bills every year just for re-election purposes, it's a concern. We've got really strong gun laws in Georgia, and maybe we need this, but I have some consternation about another gun bill every year.
Well, you do have concerns among many Republicans that, look, Republicans, just like Democrats, they have kids. They send their kids to college, and now we're about to make that a place where other people can have guns. Yeah. Some parents aren't comfortable with that. A lot of them are Republican.
Well, these are 21-year-old folks that have a carrying license. This is not just any kid out there. But it is a concern, and I'm just saying we need to be careful about doing this every year and be thoughtful about it. And if it needs to be done, we need to pass it. But I just have some reluctance about, and I will say that you see very few of these start in the Senate. We're usually ending up with them at the end of the year.
You start the religious liberty stuff on your side.
True.
They start the
well,
gun
you
stuff.
talked about some horse trading. I don't know if we're going to horse trade religious liberty for a gun law, but I've seen stranger things happen. I will say that.
One of the things that has not happened in this whole conversation, I mean, I realize it's been brought up, but not addressed, I don't think, in a substantive way, is the burden this is going to place, if it passes, on colleges and universities in terms of things like, where do you store a weapon, since you can't bring it into a if you're living on campus, you can't bring it into a dorm, a sorority, or fraternity house. You've talked about that on this show, and nobody's really addressed that question, to the best of my knowledge, other than to raise questions about it.
And there's problems with retraining your law enforcement on campus
and the student
and
about where you can take this gun, where you can't take it. It's not real clear.
No, and I will tell you, I have talked to law enforcement who say their greatest fear is if you have a Virginia Tech incident, God forbid, somewhere in Georgia, yes, they have to worry about the shooter, but they also have to worry about the heroic rescuer who pulls out a gun and tries to stop it. He's not wearing a badge.
There's really no training for a carrying license. And a policeman can't ask someone to show me your carrying license. So it's a little tricky. Just a few years ago, there was a similar bill to this that came to the Senate, and on the last night, I amended the bill to give churches the right to say no.
Yeah.
Or we'll either hire somebody for our protection or we'll allow it. But the churches were able to make that decision. I amended the bill the last night. It didn't go over so well with the House members, but it was, my opinion, what was a reasonable decision. And that's what we need, reasonable laws. As I said, we've got good gun laws. We don't need to pass another gun bill every year.
Across the way in the House, Representative Keisha Waits did introduce legislation that went nowhere, calling for students who were going to be able to carry on campus to get training. And of course, that bill didn't go anywhere. I assume because the gun lobbyists simply don't want to ever have training introduced as an element of your right to carry a weapon.
Slippery slope on both sides. People are afraid of what might happen if you do this, and so. But we've got the bill in the Senate. We'll see what happens.
All right. You talked about religious liberty. Let's talk about it for a minute. I think you supported the Pastor Protection Act, as you well know, came to the Senate, and the Greg Kirk the First Amendment Defense Act was added to it, which some people find a little more unpalatable than just pastor protection. But you, I think, voted for the amended version to send back to the House, and you made a statement about believing that if it comes right down to it, protecting people's religious liberties matters most to you.
Oh, of course it does. I mean, I've got two brothers that are pastors. Their fear really is that they will not be able to practice as they believe. They've always believed that marriage between a man and woman, and of course the federal courts have said that it could be between two people of the same sex. Well, they just want to be able to continue to practice without fear that they're going to lose their right to marry people, and both of my brothers are very endearing people. They have no hatred at all in their bones. I mean, these are folks that actually practice their faith of loving their enemy and not judging people all the good things we think about what a believer should be.
Right.
Let me ask you. You're about to exit the legislature. You are free to speak now. How do you interpret?
I said this from the well. Before I announce. I mean,
how do you interpret Governor Deal's comments from last week? And what what shape do you think this religious liberty bill will take by the time it gets back to y'all?
I don't think the House will pass it back to us. I think it's over. But, you know, I don't, the one argument I really
You think it's going to be dead. You think the House is going to bury it.
Well, that's what they've done for the last couple of years, so I'm assuming they're going to do the same thing.
Right.
Now, they may surprise me, or they may actually, there may be some high-level negotiations that include a gun bill. I mean, you suggested that, but those kinds of things actually happen. It's what they want so bad as a gun bill, and we want the religious liberty bill, so whether or not leadership puts those things together. I used to be involved in leadership, so I do know how that happens. But, you know, one of the frustrating things to me is the argument that somehow if you pass a religious liberty bill, that frankly, Greg Kirk's bill protected both sides. It was not, we're only protecting the Christian perspective. It was protecting the views of the gay and lesbian community as well. So my point is that if you've got a fair bill like that, then you should at least consider it.
Well, but I don't think opponents of the Kirk bill would suggest that they think that it protects gays and lesbians.
I know, but here's the argument that gets to me. That you're going to compare a football game as being more important than one's religious liberties. That if somehow you pass this bill, we're going to lose the Super Bowl. Well, religious liberties are far more important than a ball game. I mean, these are constitutional protections that.
You know, Jim, you pointed something out on Political Rewind this past Friday when we discussed Governor Deal's rather moving statement invoking biblical passage to say he wants to see what he considers the Christian approach, which is not anything that's prejudicial. But you caught probably the most important thing he said, which was, I can live without anything, which is what Senator Williams is saying right now. He thinks maybe the outcome of all this, right?
Well, and it could be that could be a bargaining position. I mean, you're telling the people you're dealing with, you know, my way or go home. It could be that, or he could truly say, I just don't want to see anything this year.
Well, you know, I've been here a long time. There are ways to work towards some neutral ground. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes that doesn't happen until the pressure's on.
Well, before we take a break, let me ask you what I asked Greg Kirk when he was on the show last week. If the only thing that emerged from this session is pastor protection without the First Amendment Defense Act, would that satisfy you?
I mean, I think you could count that as a win. It's certainly not everything that we were hoping for, but. I mean, I could count it as a win, but I actually thought Greg Kirk's bill was fair to both sides.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a break. Go ahead.
Here's the one thing that happens on both sides: fear of the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, they're afraid of discrimination, and we're afraid of. My two pastor brothers are afraid of discrimination, and so. You got to get beyond the fear and see what the language of the bill looks like and see if it offers some protection.
Let's take a break. Thank you for talking about those two measures, especially which everybody's paying attention to very closely as we get down to the end. But when we come back, can we talk about you a little bit,
Sure.
Your career? That would be terrific. We'd like to do that.
Thank you.
So let's take a quick break now, and we'll come back to talk about Senator Williams' career. But first, it's time to check in with another edition of Know Your Lawmaker. Representative Al Williams is a Democrat representing House District 168. He was sworn into the General Assembly in 2003 after becoming the first African American in Liberty County to be elected as a state representative since Reconstruction. He says he proudly served his country in the Vietnam War and tells us some of his most prized memories include playing basketball, softball, and horseshoes with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at Dorchester Academy. Williams took part in the original March on Washington and the Selma to Montgomery March. We'll be back in a few minutes with more Lawmakers.
Spirited Anne Shirley's turn-of-the-century life is not easy.
She ain't my responsibility no more.
But when the Cuthberts of Green Gables adopt her...
This must be the Anne we've heard so much about.
Anne's adventures are only just beginning.
I can't imagine how I let that child worm her way into my affections.
That's the one good thing about me. I never do the same wrong thing twice.
It's the classic original series, Anne of Green Gables.
Sunday at 7 on GPB.
On this date, March 8, 1945, Governor Ellis Arnold signed legislation to create Georgia's Department of Veterans Services. The legislature rightly predicted that with World War II winding down in Europe, tens of thousands of vets would be coming home, and they'd need medical services, housing, financial help, and educational opportunities too. Welcome back to Lawmakers. With me tonight, the AJC political writer Jim Galloway, and Senator Tommie Williams, a Republican from Lyons, Georgia, who after 18 years in the General Assembly, after leadership roles as Majority Leader, President Pro Tem of the Senate, has decided it's time to get back home and enjoy his life back in South Georgia.
Now, I got to say, Senator, I've been on the Hill a long time as well, and you have been the most difficult legislator I have ever had to try to pigeonhole. Just once I think you're in one category, you're in another category. You've got this wonderful story behind you. I mean, you were a missionary in China. That's a pretty hard place to go. You've got a restaurant. You're an olive oil entrepreneur. You've also become, in South Georgia, one of the defenders of the Hispanic community there. And you have given some of the most moving speeches I have heard in the legislature when immigration legislation has come up.
I think that's a great way to describe you. You really are an impossible guy to pin down as being an ideologue one way or the other. Yeah. Why now? Why is it time to retire?
Well, I just never believed these jobs were meant to be long and permanent. It's one's opportunity to serve. You give it the best years you got, and if you're effective, you stay a little bit longer. But ultimately, there's some young people out there that need to be involved in politics, and so it's time for me to move on. I've had a good career, and I have no regrets. So I'm excited. The other thing I'd just like to mention: most people think, especially politicians, think that the only way to be effective in changing things is to be in politics. Well, there are hundreds and thousands of people out there changing the world every day. I mean, school teachers in public school and DFACS workers and folks that are guarding prisoners. I mean, people that are in the trenches every day doing yeoman's work that never get recognized for it. But, I'm going to go back and be one of them.
You know, Jim, one of the areas that is hard to pin the senator down on is here he is from rural Georgia, but very, very interested in transit and in helping Metro Atlanta figure out how to move forward on transit. That's an interesting, it's sort of a contradiction in some ways.
Well, I mean, I've always been for transit. I've lived around the world and, I've seen places that have functional transit. It's a difficult thing to fund, but I've been encouraged, and I will say this: last year we passed a transportation bill, and I'll take the credit for the T-SPLOS portion of that bill. Mm-hmm. Every county in Georgia now can pass a T-SPLOS and use it for whatever purposes, not just roads and bridges. They can use it on MARTA, they can use it on trains, they can use it on the Beltline, which is a great project in itself. And this is not small amounts of money. This is 1% sales tax on everything. Just Fulton is $250 million a year.
And this penny right now is what's at dispute with the MARTA rail effort. They want half of that.
But I will tell you, there are ways to finesse that. You can't take the North Fulton cities and force a train on them when they're not ready for it. Mm-hmm. But there are places that we do need trains and places we need buses. And I'm going to look to be involved in maybe helping finesse I won't be carrying a bill, obviously, but just working behind the scenes to try to bring sanity and some unity to the process, because we do need transit in Metro Atlanta.
Well, where do you see Metro Atlanta transit-wise in the next 20 years?
Well, there are a few pretty obvious places to put a MARTA train, and the great thing now is MARTA is functioning well. They're operating in they're not in the black, but they're functionally in the black, and they cleaned up their act. You know, people see MARTA as the way to go now. It just doesn't go many places. Putting a MARTA train out to Clifton Road is a smart thing to do. For those northern parts of Fulton that want a MARTA train, we should negotiate that out there. It can be done. You just have to bring the parties to the table and make them feel like they're a part of it, and we can do it.
So, Senator, when I think about the breadth of your career in the legislature, you were there when Governor Barnes was in office.
I was.
And you were there for the flag change. As you look over all of the things events that happened while you were there, does that become one of the biggest events of your career?
That was a big item that was handled poorly, but I'll have to say I should have voted to change the flag. That's one of my regrets being in the General Assembly. It came my first year here. Everybody in my home was saying, don't vote for this flag change. And I was persuaded that way, but it was not the right decision. It should have been changed.
Jim?
Go
ahead. No, first you.
No, I was going to say, is there any other decision out there that you would give warning to? I mean, Medicaid expansion, for instance.
Well, the one warning I would give to politicians is don't govern to get reelected. You make for a sorry legislator if you only think about what I have to do to get reelected. If the people trusted you enough to send you up here and thought you were smart enough to do the job, then do the job without always thinking about, well, if I don't do this, they'll vote me out or somebody will run against me. Well, if you think like that, they will send somebody up here.
All right, Senator, I said the other night when our Shelby Lin down at the Capitol did a little news story about your retiring, I said the one thing I was glad about was I thought you maybe would go back to Lyons and be producing more of your Terra Dolce extra virgin olive oil. Prize winning. This is a fascinating business. You've started growing olives in South Georgia and have turned out this extraordinary olive oil. I keep it up on my desk and use it. I buy it for my salads at lunch.
It's been an interesting process. I will have to give credit to a House member that was the first to grow them in Georgia. But we started growing 6 years ago, and 3 years. It takes 3 years to produce olives enough to make oil. We made some award-winning oil the first time out. Just kind of like Bottle Shock, if you ever seen that movie. But it was a shock to me, but it's been fun. We have learned a lot of things that we're not California. They've got better climates and better soils, but we produce some really good oil. And if our shortfalls really are when the olives are blooming, you don't need a lot of rain, and if you get a lot of rain, you don't get a lot of olives.
Right.
So we got to figure out some things there.
Maybe climate change will take care of this.
Well, between this, olive oil.
Olives love hot weather and dry weather. We just hadn't had any dry weather.
All right. So between your olive oil, your restaurant, called again?
My restaurant is Elements.
Elements.
My brother.
And the possibility that you're going to find some civic projects, perhaps get involved in transit in a different way. It seems to me like this retirement is going to keep you incredibly busy.
Oh, I despise the idea of retirement.
All right. Congratulations on a great run in the Georgia State
Thank you very much.
Senate. So thank you so much for being with us, Senator Jim. Always great to have you here, too. That's another day gone in the legislature. 33 down, just 7 legislative days between now and sine die. General Assembly's not meeting tomorrow, but we'll be back on Thursday with full coverage of day 34. Remember, you can always find us on Facebook and Twitter at GPB News to keep track of the latest political news, or you can go to gpb.org/lawmakers to see old shows. And don't miss tomorrow's Political Rewind. Jim Galloway will join me tomorrow at 2 on GPB Radio across this state. I'm Bill Nigut. Good night.